Oleg Gordievsky was a man who played a pivotal role in the world of espionage during the Cold War. His life took unexpected turns, from being a member of the KGB to becoming a double agent for the British. His transformation from a loyal KGB member to a crucial informant for MI6 is a tale filled with espionage, danger, and the audacious escape that shook the foundations of Soviet intelligence. Oleg Gordievsky started his journey in the secretive world of the KGB, following in his family's footsteps. Growing up in a special housing block for KGB officers, he became part of the world of espionage at a young age. As a teenager, at the age of 17, Gordievsky headed on a journey that would mold his destiny. His path led him to the study of languages at Moscow State University. This choice was not merely academic, it served as a strategic stepping stone into the KGB. In a country where language skills were highly valued, Gordievsky's proficiency in 56 languages set him on a trajectory toward a career in the intelligence sphere. After completing his studies, he gained admission to the KGB's Special School 101, located in the wooded expanses northwest of Moscow. Here, he learned important spy skills like spotting and avoiding people following him, and learned how to use secret codes, adopt disguises, and handle microfilm. The training wasn't solely academic, but included lessons from seasoned agents experienced in foreign operations. These mentors provided insights into the behavioral nuances of Westerners, an essential aspect for someone destined for covert missions abroad. In the summer of 1963, at the age of 26, Oleg Gordievsky officially entered the ranks of the KGB. His initial assignment placed him in the vibrant Danish capital Copenhagen, stationed at the Residentura, the KGB department of the Russian embassy. Copenhagen proved to be a revelation for Gordievsky. Immersed in the city's dynamism, marked by expensive restaurants, overflowing libraries, and classical concerts, he began to question the rigid communism of the Soviet Union. For him, Copenhagen became a symbol of freedom and cultural richness, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere he experienced in Moscow. His love for Western culture, especially composers like Bach and Handel, flourished in Copenhagen. In the city's democratic and prosperous environment, Gordievsky's outlook underwent a profound shift. He began to notice the flaws in the Soviet system, further solidified by a brief return to Moscow, where the city felt like a confining prison compared to the freeing atmosphere of Copenhagen. Despite the clear distinctions, both capitals had one thing in common. They were full of spies. Alongside the KGB, the British, American, and French intelligence services were active in Copenhagen, frequently with the unspoken approval of the Danish Secret Service, PET. The British MI6, sensing Gordievsky's anti-Russian sentiments, collaborated with the Danish PET to set a trap. They observed him closely after his arrival in Copenhagen in 1966. Gordievsky, witnessing the oppressive nature of the Soviet Union, became a target for Western intelligence agencies. In a peculiar turn of events, Gordievsky's decision to purchase a homosexual pornographic item attracted attention. Motivated not by personal preference, but by a wish to explore newfound freedoms, this incident laid the groundwork for a traditional honey trap operation. PET sought to seduce Gordievsky at a dinner party. The trap unfolded as planned, reaching its climax with Oleg Gordievsky's defection to the West in November 1974. The pivotal moment occurred in a dimly lit bar on the outskirts of Copenhagen, where MI6 recruited its most valuable spy of the Cold War. The West, with few agents deeply embedded in the KGB, now had Gordievsky as a top priority. However, his time in Copenhagen came to an end in 1978, and he returned to Moscow, leaving MI6 in the dark for 4 long years. The MI6, presuming they had lost him as a spy, faced a challenging period of uncertainty. Then, a glimmer of hope appeared on the horizon for MI6. A diplomatic visa application from a familiar name reached British security services. Nikolai Gribin, Gordievsky's former colleague in Copenhagen, now head of the British section of the KGB in Moscow, personally recommended Oleg for a post in London. In 1982, MI6's secret spy returned to the West. In London, he was given the codename Nocturne. His contact at MI6 was James Spooner, head of MI6's Russian department, fluent in Russian. The re-established connection allowed weekly meetings in an apartment in the Bayswater district of London. Gordievsky's early revelations included the collaboration between British opposition leader Michael Foot and the KGB, a revelation that fortunately for MI6 had no consequences due to Foote losing the election to Margaret Thatcher in 1983. Spooner learned from Gordievsky that KGB agents in London primarily targeted left-wing politicians and potential Soviet sympathizers, yielding minimal success. These insights became the foundation for MI6's strategic counterintelligence efforts. MI6 strengthened Gordievsky's position within the KGB by providing him with seemingly harmless information about Western politicians that he could pass to his superiors. The British also arranged meetings with lesser-known members of Parliament, further enhancing Gordievsky's credibility within the KGB. This calculated strategy paid off, advancing the double agent to the position of head of the political department of the KGB. In this position, he has access to documents from other departments of the KGB, such as the section dealing with counterintelligence and those for illegal KGB agents who live under false identities as British citizens, providing MI5 with valuable information. All instructions from Moscow are sent by diplomatic mail and may not be opened by the authorities. The double agent usually photographs the documents, but sometimes he smuggles a load of papers out in his briefcase. Then he goes to the apartment in Bayswater, where someone from MI6 takes pictures of them. The papers are important, but it also helps that Gordievsky has an elephant memory. Moreover, he's very good at secretly listening in on conversations on the resident tour, and thanks to his thorough analysis of what he has overheard, the British are getting an increasingly complete and correct picture of the enemy behind the Iron Curtain. Recognizing the significance of this information, MI6 made the decision to inform the Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher, acknowledging Gordievsky's idealistic motives, respected the risks he took for her country because in the KGB, treason is punishable by death. His boss at the London residency, Arkady Gek, sensed something amiss but couldn't pinpoint the issue. His deputy, Igor Titov, became suspicious and started keeping a close eye on Gordievsky. The British, who wanted to prevent Gordievsky from being discovered as a double agent, deported Titov from their country, allegedly because they suspected him of espionage. Titov is no longer a threat, but one morning in April 1983, someone slips a letter under Gek's door. The sender calls himself Koba, a nickname of Stalin, and is, in reality, a failed and jealous MI5 agent, Michael Bettany. Bettany belongs to the select group who know Gordievsky's secret. In the letter, Koba explains the real reason for Titov's expulsion. Gek thinks the letter is a trap and ignores its contents. In July, Koba slides a new letter under his front door. The envelope contains copies of 2 MI5 documents containing the complete hierarchy of all KGB agents operating in London, including the correct names of all 23 resident staff. Now Gek's interest has been aroused. "Do you want to see something special?" he asks his best agent, Gordievsky. The double agent recognizes his own information and almost faints. He regains his composure and assures Gek that it is probably a trap. He then quickly contacts MI6 via the secret telephone line set up just for him. The Noctum team is shocked, but does not panic. The manhunt for Koba begins. In September 1983, MI6 and MI5 trace the informant Koba back to Michael Bettany, who was arrested for passing confidential information to the KGB. The trial in 1984 resulted in Bettany receiving a 23-year prison sentence. The British media publicly criticized him, exposing the man who rejected the treacherous offer. Despite the trial's success, the letter revealing the KGB's London staff indicated the existence of a mole, yet Gek failed to seize the opportunity. Moscow's fury intensified, and the position of the head of the residential tour in London remained unoccupied. Aware of the rumors regarding a mole, Gordievsky boldly applied for the position. With no evidence pointing to him, he aimed to gain access to the KGB's deepest secrets. Leonid Nikitenko, head of counterintelligence in resident Tura, suspected Gordievsky but lacked proof. It suits Gordievsky well that Nikitenko's 3-year stint is almost over, and while his rival is doing his best to get his term extended, Gordievsky's star is rising quickly. Seizing the opportunity during the visit of future Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev to London in December 1984, Gordievsky shared detailed information about British politics and current affairs. This strategic move solidified his position as a valuable asset for both MI6 and the KGB. Impressed by Gordievsky's contributions, the KGB promoted him to head of the residency tour in April 1985. MI6 was elated, witnessing the unexpected rise of their mole. However, on May 16, 1985, an alarming telegram arrived. Gordievsky was summoned to Moscow within 48 hours. Without Gordievsky's knowledge, CIA agent Aldrich Ames had contacted the KGB in Washington in April 1985, offering information about senior Russians working against the KGB. Ames, aware of Gordievsky's secret, had informed his superiors about the British intelligence source. As Gordievsky landed in Moscow on May 18, 1985, the looming uncertainty engulfed him. While Ames might not have handed over his list to the KGB by then, Gordievsky was gripped by anxiety. His journey through the airport, taxi ride, and arrival at his apartment hinted at the ever-watchful eyes of the KGB. A chilling realization struck him at his apartment door. A door he never used was locked and secured. The message was clear. The KGB was monitoring his every move. The following weeks turned into a nightmare of constant fear, sleepless nights, chain smoking, and vodka consumption. Each day, Gordievsky anticipated a call from the KGB's top brass, knowing that he was under close surveillance. The call finally came on May 27, 1985, from Viktor Grushko, head of counterintelligence. There are 2 men who want to talk to you about a British issue. Gordievsky, accompanied by Grushko, found himself in a car heading to an undisclosed location. After an hour, they reached a fenced house where 2 KGB generals awaited, who were experts in interrogation. The atmosphere was tense, and American brandy flowed freely. Gordievsky, under the influence of a potent substance, truth serum, was covertly added to his drink, faced relentless accusations. The interrogators, armed with alleged evidence, demanded his confession. Sweating and nauseous, Gordievsky miraculously managed to deny the allegations, relying on his resilience and discrediting the evidence provided by the interrogators. Before Gordievsky really faints, he manages to strike a chord with the 2 generals. "You are no better than Stalin's executioners who stole innocent people from their beds at night and murdered them." His mention of Stalin's brutal purges in the 1930s resonated with the generals. The KGB, cautious about tarnishing its honor without concrete evidence, hesitated to take drastic action. Despite their certainty that Gordievsky would eventually break, time became the crucial factor in their calculations. Amidst the turmoil, Gordievsky's family, unaware of his double life, faced their own challenges. In May 1985, the KGB brought his wife Layla and 2 daughters to Moscow, witnessing the visible toll the situation had taken on him. The family reunion behind the Iron Curtain complicated matters for Gordievsky, who had never divulged his secret to Layla, fearing betrayal. To shield his family from the truth, Gordievsky fabricated a false story, attributing the turmoil to jealousy over a promotion. Despite his love for his wife, the decision to send them away on holiday to Azerbaijan in July 1985 weighed heavily on him, knowing it might be a farewell. The anticipation of the possibility of separation increased, and the decision to run away without her became the hardest thing he'd ever have to do. July 17, 1985. Alone in Moscow, Gordievsky, wearing a grey cap and carrying a bag from a local store, ventured into the streets. Arthur G., a British diplomat and MI6 operative, spotted him outside a bakery, taking a bite of a Mars bar. The prearranged signal between MI6 agents and Gordievsky marked the beginning of Operation Pimlico. The encounter activated a series of events triggering a planned exfiltration operation. A double-encrypted telegram from British spies in Moscow to MI6 in London signaled the initiation of Pimlico, accompanied by mass surveillance and the commencement of the recall. Operation Pimlico was intended to secure Gordievsky. Faced with challenges posed by Russian-controlled Finnish airports, the plan required a border crossing in 2 cars. The MI6 agents in Moscow devised a deception for the KGB using Arthur G.'s wife, who pretended to suffer from back pain. The cover story involved a trip to Helsinki for medical consultation, accompanied by a friend named Caroline, creating the illusion of a weekend getaway. On Friday afternoon, July 19, 1985, the cars were ready, and the 4 MI6 agents drove out of Moscow with an empty trunk. Gordievsky had to be picked up at a parking lot in a forest near Vyborg on the Finnish border. Nearly 72 hours after the sign at the bakery, at 4 p.m., he left his apartment, ran through a park, and descended into the depths of the Moscow metro. For an hour, Gordievsky boarded all kinds of metros going in different directions. Only when he was sure he had shaken off his KGB pursuers did he board Metro Line 1 to Leningrad Station in Moscow. There he changed to the night train to Zelenogorsk, 50 kilometers from the border with Finland. While Gordievsky was on his way by train and bus to the agreed parking lot at kilometer marker 338 on the road to Vyborg, the British were also approaching in their cars. At the designated parking lot, the tension reached its peak. Emerging from the boggy forest floor like a spectre, Oleg Gordievsky, smeared and worn, had successfully evaded the grasp of the KGB. In those fleeting moments, time seemed suspended, and relief washed over the group. Arthur G. swiftly opened the trunk of his car, providing a refuge for Gordievsky. Hidden in the dark recesses of the vehicle, the ex-KGB officer, now a prized MI6 asset, was on the precipice of a life-altering escape. In the quiet hours that followed, the strains of classical music echoed from the car's cassette player, Finlandia by Sibelius. Even though he was half-conscious, Gordievsky understood that he had crossed the borders of the Soviet Union, evading the constant gaze of the KGB. Oleg Gordievsky's bold escape delivered a heavy blow to the KGB, exposing weaknesses in its seemingly invincible system. In a trial held in November 1985, where he was not present, Gordievsky was sentenced to death for treason, highlighting the seriousness of his actions. The aftermath extended beyond Gordievsky himself. His wife, Layla, and their 2 daughters found themselves trapped behind the Iron Curtain, facing the repercussions of his covert life. Layla Gordievsky, unknowing of her husband's espionage activities, endured a challenging existence under KGB scrutiny. The persistent efforts of British authorities, including Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, to secure the release of Gordievsky's family, proved unsuccessful during the initial years. The KGB devised a web of misinformation, feeding Layla false details about her husband's alleged infidelity and a new life with a young woman. The breakthrough came with the arrival of Mikhail Gorbachev at the helm of the Soviet Union. In 1989, Vadim Bakatin, a reformist, replaced the head of the KGB. This change paved the way for the reunion of Layla and her daughters with Oleg Gordievsky. In September 1991, they landed at Heathrow, marking the end of their forced separation. The Gordievsky family's return to the West, however, did not heal the strains caused by years of secrecy and separation. The marriage between Oleg and Layla could not withstand the weight of their tumultuous past and dissolved in 1993. As the Gordievsky daughters pursued their education at British universities, their lives took a different trajectory, adopting a surname distinct from their father's, Oleg Gordievsky. Oleg Gordievsky, now 85, resides in Great Britain, supported by a civil service pension. His interviews with the media and alleged involvement in trading sensitive information about Soviet and Russian secret services mark the end of an extraordinary life shaped by the shadows of espionage. Oleg Gordievsky's journey, from a young KGB initiate to a double agent planning a daring escape, is a testament to the complexities of the Cold War era. His story uncovers the complexities of espionage, shedding light on the intricacies of espionage and the personal challenges faced in the secretive world of intelligence.